Capricorn charts the stars.
Hey guys, this is Slappy White with Creators of the First. It's been a few weeks. It's been a new year. The great thing is we've got our panelists here and they've kept you going with content. So I'm Slappy White with Radish Digital. As I mentioned, we've got Grace from Wonders Workshop. We've got American Texan from American Texan Plays trying out a new day and time, Mondays at 12. We'll see. Everybody's got lives. So this is a passion project. We'll see if we can keep this regular time slot going. Appreciate everybody who's joining us. American or Grace, you have your mute off. How are you doing, Grace? All right. Well, American.
See, you assumed Slappy, and it backfired on you big time.
Oh, Grace, we got to work on the Wi-Fi in your new apartment. All right, I think it's working now. There, you're unfrozen, Grace. How are you doing?
Is it better now?
It is.
Do I sound less demonic?
You didn't sound anything. You just sounded robotic or statuesque.
It was a good statue though. You weren't frozen like.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. Had fun playing in the snow yesterday. Just getting stuff done.
All right. Well, and again, for folks who don't know, you're in South Carolina.
My channel there.
And for folks who don't know, you're in South Carolina, so that's a big deal playing in the snow. All right.
Yes.
Texan, well, we know where you are. Did you get a snow down there in Texas?
No, we don't get snow. We get snow in Texas, but here on the coast in the Houston area, we get snow like maybe once every 12 years. So when it's a snow day, everything is just canceled, and we have no idea what to do with ourselves. And kids are outside in the snow playing in like long sleeve shirts because that's all we have. We don't have jackets and hoodies and mittens and everything. But no, it was good. We still had a nice cold weather, but we're warming up now. So now it's back to Texas weather in February.
And you know, I think we shared this before, but one of my favorite stories was when I used to go down to College Station for work. And I'll never forget, like being from Vermont, right? We still get snow in. I remember the first year they moved my college graduation outdoors to the green, and it snowed. You know, it was like May 15th. And I remember the commencement speaker was like, when she got up, she was like, this is ridiculous. Congratulations. And the administrators weren't happy because like everybody else was suffering. They're literally outside with snow coming down on them. And the keynote speaker was like, I'm not from Vermont. You guys are nuts. Like to do this like 2-hour-long ceremony in the snow. But when I was down in Texas, I remember in February going running by the campus of A&M, and they had banners out, welcome spring, and they showed people playing tennis and, you know, all this other thing. I'm like, it's February. I'm like, welcome spring. I'm like, spring doesn't come for 4 more months.
Spring starts in February in the South.
Yeah. If it ever goes away at all. But it's either going to have whatever the groundhog says. It's usually the opposite here. And so you can have, one time we had snow on Easter. It was the weirdest thing. That weekend, my uncle's family went to Colorado to see snow and have a snowy weekend, and it snowed in Texas. Like you can't make that
up. But it wasn't Colorado snow where he was.
No, it wasn't. So. No, it was. You could build multiple snowmen, not little snow people like we have when it snows here.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys being here, and I appreciate everybody who's joining us live, watching Creators of the First, and also appreciate if you're watching this in replay. So since we last met, and by the way, Calveron saying currently getting snow, and I believe Calveron is out in the Dakotas. So God bless. It's like, oh, I love snow. I was telling my daughter, it's like we're supposed to get more snow. I'm like, keep piling it on, keep it 15 degrees, and keep the snow coming. Like, let's keep it where it just doesn't go away. So I'm with you, Calveron. Couple of things that we have to talk about, and I'm really eager, obviously, is that the strength is you guys are players. It does impact the collector when you look at changes to DBS, absolutely, in terms of the value of the cards. But I was shocked when I saw the announcement. I think the number was 141 cards. And so what's interesting is, right, you have this massive set of Wonders of the First, the existence set. So 141 seems like a lot, but then you're like, well, you know, that's not even a third of the set. So maybe a percentage-wise, that's not a big deal. So I want to talk about that. Also want to talk about they made some changes about tournament rules and why we think they made that and any implications. And then also, of course, we got to mention the shattering coming up. We're 1 month away from the shattering. And then the final thing that we wanted to talk about is that Remind me, guys. I know I told you before we went live. What was the third thing? The
The
third.
LGS
Oh,
strategy.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't look at the notes.
It's in the video, which is the only reason I knew that, and I had to go reread it to make sure that it was fresh in my brain.
All right. Well, Grace, since you reread it and Texan didn't do the homework, what would you like to start with of those three?
DBS is the most interesting to me, so I'd prefer to do that first.
Okay. Yeah. Let's hear about DBS. And actually, one of the things, let me go ahead and read the announcement for folks so that way they can talk about it, is that, and I'll go ahead and share the screen. Let me see, and I'll read the announcement. I won't read the entire. Let's get this up on stage.
What's
I'll
up,
read the
everybody
announcement.
watching? We got Humana, Felipe, Ishmael,
Hi all.
Vas Maximus, Joe Douglas. Who's that? Who's that guy? Never seen
Yeah.
him before. Thank y'all for being here on a Monday morning or afternoon, I guess. Depends on where you are.
Yeah. Welcome, everybody. All right. So here was the announcement. And for folks who don't know, there's a very active
We don't see it on
community.
screen, Slappy.
Oh,
We just see sparkles.
Oh, there we go. All right. Thank you for letting me
go.
know. And let's get rid of that. Sure.
Except
we'll
the
go ahead and reject
cookies. Why would you ever
Reject it.
decline cookie? Oh,
I'm not Cookie
what are you,
Monster.
low carbing?
All right. We're going to put this. Let's go ahead. I am not low carbing. We're going to go ahead and put the link in the chat so everybody can go and check that out as well. But the Wonders team has an official Discord. For folks who don't know what that is, that's a social media app. It's where the official community it's a very hyperactive community, and it's a great way for them to focus group, to test things out, to communicate. But as we know, over 80% of the American population is not on Discord and hasn't heard of it. So that's why we're bringing you shows like this to talk to you about what's happening on Discord, so you don't have to be. All right. So with the announcement that came out, this was on January 16th. So we're a couple weeks past. The latest DBS update is officially active and includes adjustments to 141 cards across the card pool, with both increases and decreases aimed at improving balance and gameplay. The full explanation and breakdown of the changes can be found here. All right. So Grace, before we go ahead and hear your thoughts on it, is that American Texan, can you tell us what DBS is?
Yeah, so DBS stands for Deck Balancing Score, and that's essentially to help weigh out the powerful cards and to create, I think, two reasons specifically for deck building. Number one is to help diversify the way people make decks, because every card is weighted differently. Some cards are maybe worth 10 points inside your deck, and some cards are worth 60 points inside your deck. So if you have a 60-point card, well, that's a pretty strong card. It's a popular card, or it's what we might call a feel-bad card. So that's something that, is going to be something that's going to eat up a lot of your DBS score in your deck. So you got to use lower point cards elsewhere. What that also does is it helps really diversify cards, because some people will use those high-power cards and then a lot of lower cards. Other people won't even try to fit those expensive cards in their deck, and they'll just use other mid-range DBS cards, so to speak. And it just kind of helps to make sure that if someone's going to run something, it's going to be a little bit more of a tent pole of their deck. So if you can mitigate it or manage it or remove it, then the rest of their deck may not be as strong. I think one thing that the way that I explain it, I'm still trying to figure out a better way to explain it. High DBS doesn't just mean good card. It doesn't just mean like if you don't have this card, your deck doesn't work. I think a lot of people think that the higher the DBS, the better the card is. I don't think that's the case. I think it's just, I think there's a few different things we can get into maybe if you want about why cards are DBS high or why other cards are DBS low. I think it has to do more of how it's able to be used across multiple types of decks. But basically what we have here then is a bunch of cards were shifted. So some cards went up in DBS, meaning they're going to be more difficult. You can't run 3 of them where you could normally run 2 of them maybe. And others went down. So like, hey, we noticed that a lot of Solfera is not being played right now, so maybe people think it's too expensive, it's not worth running, so let's lower Solfera cards in there as well. So it's a little bit of proactive, hey, we want to see more diversification in this area of the game, and it's also a little bit of reactive in we see this run way too much and the game's kind of boring. Everyone's running the same deck or something like that. So it's how the team, the design team and the play team and the tournament team, all of them together. I think it's across multiple departments, so to speak, can use DBS to facilitate how the game plays out in the future. And so what we have here is, of course, the largest DBS update.
And Grace, is that when it comes to the DBS that they're talking about, is this, of course, you have experience as a Magic player. Is this unique to Wonders of the First, or does Magic employ a DBS as well?
I have never seen anything like this in another card game that I've played. What Magic has is a banned list. Hey, you can't play this card. And that's very different. You might not want to play a bunch of Luminous Scarabs right now, or a bunch of Omnis Quantums because they're worth a bunch of points, but you can definitely still play them.
Right.
Those are both cards that are some of the highest DBS scores in the game right now. Just for context, but you can still play any card that you want in Wonders. It's just about what sacrifice are you willing to make. I think of DBS like a wrestling weight class. You can have a certain number of points in your deck. If you're below a certain amount, you can wrestle in that class. You can play in these tournaments. I found that helps some people understand it.
And if anyone comes from sports ball, I look at it like a salary cap. Like, you have a 1,000-point deck. So, just like a salary cap. If you're going to play this one player, 60 DBS, and you got 200 DBS tied up in these 3 players, well, you don't have as much of a salary to get these other cards in your deck, because every league is going to be different. You have 750, 1,000, 1,250.
Well, the only to your point about it
being
difficult to use that as the example is that, of course, the Drake May he's got the salary he's got, right? He's not going to go down to 500,000 a year next year. They can't rebalance that. He just is what he is. So it's a little bit different because you can't do that with the salary cap. But I agree with you. That's a pretty good one. I was actually thinking about your name.
That's like your budget, right? Like, the difference is that the players' contracts are negotiated every few months. So,
Right.
it's, you get a good thing or a bad thing. Like, oh, Luminous Scarab, now he's more expensive. I'm going to have to cut him, because I can't afford him. Or, or you're just like, hey, I'm just going to use all these cheap cards and I don't even need to use all my salary cap.
Yeah. All right. I was going to make a parallel to Texas Hold'em, but instead, Grace, Calveron says, in my opinion, DBS is the cross-section of potential game impact, discouraging counterplay, flexibility, non-core, and abuse with key cards. So he's really, wow, I wish Calveron was on with us right now. He's hitting very lightly on major topics with just a couple words. But is there anything, Grace, that you want to say to it? Like, that could be a whole nother show, what Calveron just posted.
Yeah, I think he's kind of hit a lot of things spot on the head, because it's in the blog post. They specifically say something about not trying to use DBS to determine the meta. I want to say that was the phrasing. I'm trying to scroll and talk at the same time, and that's never been something I'm good at.
Yeah. I thought that's your generation strength.
I don't text
she
and
must
drive.
Be scrolling. She can't talk.
No, but I definitely, you can see that there are some of these things, some of these decisions that are made based on, hey, we're seeing that this card is being used and abused on the regular. Luminous Scarab is a really good example of that. I didn't see it in person, but there was, I think, like half of the decks in the Dragon Cup had a Luminous Scarab and were just like locking boards down.
Yep.
And so that card got punished. It got its DBS raised because rightfully so. Let me be clear on that. I think it is a rightful DBS raise. But it got raised so that people would see more different types of decks, and also because if you can run 3 Luminous Scarabs at such a low cost, then maybe for the balancing of the game as a whole, things need to change. Well, so it's a lot of that, what he was talking about.
Well, in Texan, there's really 2 things going on. You have Brian Tinsman, a former lead game designer, head game designer for Magic the Gathering, who is a player's player. And then you have Jeff French, who is a collector's collector. And this really benefits both of them, which is Brian Tinsman didn't create a game with 481 cards. Well, I should say Brian and Ramel and Ikish and all the people who brought us existence. And I'm not trying to leave anyone out. Joe Doug, all the people who've done the hard work. They brought us this great game. And so they don't want to see people playing with the same, same 50 cards. And so they want them to play with all 481. So this is an attempt to do that. It's also an attempt. They don't want a boring game. If somebody can simply create the deck, they don't want it to make it where new people aren't going to have the ability to get in there. Of course, like existence, it was so limited. You could literally lock up some of the plays. I know with Rob, Big Rob, we were talking about the Radish price guide. We want to incorporate Wonders of the First the way we've done Boba, but there's a couple hard things. Rob's been able to get the accuracy over 90% for scraping the data for eBay sales. But the eBay sales right now, last time we spoke, maybe a month ago, about the details on a detailed level, it was less than 100 sales a week. And it simply is there's just not enough product. It's good and it's bad. When people get Wonders product, they hold on to it. They don't sell it. There's no singles going on eBay. I think with this next set, we're going to see that change dramatically. So hopefully we can get that pricing. But speaking of pricing, Jeff is a collector's collector. So what he doesn't want to see is he doesn't want to see people who are collecting cards in the rest of the set that aren't being used in the most successful decks. And he wants a chance for every card to shine. So this kind of, Texan, this kind of hits both, right? It makes Brian happy. He gets to see the game he designed play out where all cards are being utilized. Jeff gets to see the collectors happy because the value of their cards are going to hold value.
Yeah. The fact that this is a trading card game, with these changes, that's going to, it was already, okay, let me back up. It was already going to be pretty versatile because even if, as the game grows and certain people crack the game and say like, oh, this is the best deck period, and everyone starts running it, the next set comes out, there's going to be cards that people find answers for. There's going to be ways to see how to manipulate the board with the cards that we do have. And that's naturally going to change what values are. For example, someone figured out, this is just a off the wall example. We haven't seen this in competition, but someone figured out there's a card called Cave Dwelling Toebiter that if you play it for free every turn, it switches control. So it goes to your opponent the next turn, then back to you the next turn. But someone figured out that if you put a Starburst Mallet on it, which nullifies opponent Wonders, well, when that Cave Dwelling Toebiter goes to the other side, it's now nullified because it gets controlled by your opponent, but your mallet stays with you. So then it stops switching sides. Like that's something that we haven't really found utility for. Well, there's one utility, but it's kind of just not, it's not practical. So anyways, there's a way that you can do that, but we didn't know that was happening. So if someone takes that to another level and says, well, I figured out that if you keep control of the Cave Dwelling Toebiter and it stays nullified, that fires off this other card that's a totally unbreakable, unbeatable combo. If someone figures that out, well, now those three cards, Cave Dwelling Toebiter, Starburst Mallet, and then whatever that other X card is, like those then get played in a bunch of tournaments, which then shoot up through the roof. And without any DBS management or edits or updates, those cards naturally shoot up, just like in sports. Yep. Someone goes on a tear and then like, hey, like now this card's worth something. People want it. This auto card maybe was $90 before. Now it's $900 because this guy's hot. He's on fire. He started a new contract like I didn't do anything with my card. It just sat here in my collection and now it's worth more because someone else, a player, managed to find a new way to make it more exciting. So even without the DBS management, this stuff is naturally going to happen. And then other things are going to fall in favor. Everyone's worried about Chieftain Klee right now. Well, I think we're going to see a lot more answers and competitions for Chieftain Klee, even though DBS hasn't been updated for it or in a meaningful way. So all that said, the DBS updates can help collectability, but ultimately, just because a card goes up in DBS doesn't mean the value is going to go down. Luminous Scarab going from, I don't know how much it was, 20 to 80 or 90 DBS does not change the fact that it's a formless foil epic that's really hard to hit, and it can still go in any other deck. If someone's sitting at an 800 deck and they got two cards they can fit in, even if it's a Thalwyn deck, hey, I'm generating lots of energy. I can do some attacks. Let's go ahead and mess with my opponent and put some Luminous Scarabs in my deck because it's not core. I can run it in any deck that I want. So I don't think it impacts collectability that much. It's the players that are mainly going to impact that because there could be a low DBS card, but a lot of low DBS cards are mythic cards. They're very rare. So naturally the formless foil collectible versions and the OCMs, they're naturally going to be higher. So if there is any collectability change when DBS changes, I mean, when you're talking about a card being worth hundreds of dollars, the change of value is going to be like maybe a few dozen dollars. I don't think it's going to be that much.
All right, well,
it's really going to, and Frenchie knows this, it's the players that are going to drive the collectability of this game, not so much the DBS changes.
I know Grace is, it's funny, Grace, it's been so long. As soon as you put your finger on your nose, I was like, okay, Grace has something to say. Grace.
Well, so this is a really great conversation for me right now because the video that I released on Friday is about how DBS affects value. And I basically.
Then why are we talking? Just go watch Grace's video. Next subject.
You have been training me to plug my videos. I'm trying to do what I'm supposed to do.
Do it. Plug away.
But one of the things that the formula that I kind of broke it down into was DBS affects playability, playability affects demand, demand affects value. And so the supply is what really manages how big the effect the DBS change makes the actual value change, because at least in my opinion, in front of what I've seen, a formless foil mythic is going to be, or a formless foil epic is going to be more or less affected than a paper card because there's so many copies of it versus a formless foil epic. So that is where I feel like some of the play in how much the effect is going to be is in, because players are going to play with what players want to play with. Collectors are going to be looking for the cards to either play their own version in the Dragon Cup or to sponsor a team in the Dragon Cup. And so it's a much more complicated question with the formless foils because there are so many less of them and the OCMs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think you're not giving enough. It's interesting, Texan. Like when you talk about the value, I don't think it's being driven as much by the play. I think kind of like what I see in Bow Battle Arena is that it's funny how many people will say like, well, this is CJ Stroud. Like this is shrouded. Like, yeah, this is a great card. And you have players in Bow Battle Arena, like they just care about the power on the card because of course they have plays, but in Bow Battle, it's the hero is what counts in terms of the power level. And it's funny because I try to tell people, I'm like, this might be an athlete that nobody cares about, but you look at its power number, 145 is a notoriously difficult to find power level in Bow Battle Arena. I don't care who the hero is. He could be somebody you've never heard of. It's like, that's a valuable card, but it's not valuable if people don't recognize it in the community, in the buying community, because that's why I scoop and pick it up, because I know how hard it is to get and people let it go all the time. So anyway, the only thing I would say is that there is, I think in both Bow Battle and Wonders, something will happen where the collectors and the players are going to come together. It hasn't happened yet. It's still two distinct communities. But when you have collectability based on playability, based on parallel, based on rarity, when all that comes together, it is going to supercharge the value on especially these existence, the first set of cards. So I would just say what's great about that is when that happens and there's synergy, I think it actually makes the card value less susceptible to the DBS, because at that point it's working off both, and investors or collectors tend to dismiss the negative news and only see the positive. So as long as it's either limited parallel, like as you were saying, it's an epic formless foil, there aren't that many of it, or whether it's favorability in the DBS system, they will only look at the favorable news that'll drive the value of their cards up. Yeah, I'm excited to see what's actually going to happen with College Towns. All right, so anyway, we really went into DBS there. So the big news though was the 141 cards, and actually I don't want to go too much into it. Like it'd be a fun show to say the top 10 that you think were impacted the most. But Grace, we kind of got into DBS, but I don't think we talked about their announcement, the 141 cards. What was your biggest shock coming out of the DBS change? Or actually, what was the one mistake? What was the one mistake they made? What's that?
Fungolith Colossus going down answers both questions. Biggest shock and the biggest mistake. 25 points, I think, down to 15. Granted, it's expensive, but it's 12 power. It's basically the same as the vanilla giant Gruob beast, except instead of 9 cost, it's 8. Instead of 13 power, it's 12. And it gets -4, which removes so many bad things on the board. And when you battle, you get energy back. Like, come on. That was a huge shock. I could not raise everything else. I don't care. But to see Fungalith go down is insane. It's in every Patria deck now, and I even see some other high energy decks, Helio decks running it too, because it's really, really good.
That and I feel like Azure Sky Citation going down surprised me. But I also like the deck. This is probably a little bit of bias. The deck that I see played most consistently is a deck that combos off hard with Azure Sky Citation in multiple different ways. There's so many ways you can use and abuse that card.
Yeah, there is.
You can use Valoris Crestwing to get 10 free actions if you set it up with a Thought Tempest and do all sorts of crazy stuff. You can cheat it out from the graveyard. You can do a lot of stuff. It's not
well, my deck, I just generate a lot of energy, put 1 out there, and then I just portal it all over the board, and eventually I have more whales than the Boba Discord on the board.
Mm-hmm.
You like that, Slappy?
Grace, I will say, just to close out, Kelveron had one question or one comment where he just said, interestingly, there are 3 other sources of value outside of play in the form of storytelling, which can counter to a degree the reduced value from DBS driven demand. But then Joe Doug, who, for folks who don't know, we're talking about this creators of the first, we're talking about wonders of the first. And Joe Doug, part of the team, we're going to dox him there, and saying another factor that we incorporate is fun. When we see certain cards making an unfun play experience, we also take this into account. For example, we noticed a lot of players do not have fun playing land destruction, whether or not they are playing it or playing against it.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the number one thing. People disagree with me on this, but I think when it comes to DBS decisions, the number one thing is fun. Either fun or feels bad, however you want to do that. Like, and also it's just not fun playing the same deck over and over again. That was my Vegas. I had so much fun playing this game. I had very little fun playing in Vegas because I played the same deck 4 times, 4 out of 5 times, same Patria deck, and that was not fun. And that's because people playing in the Vegas Stoneseeker Cup just saw that this was the best deck. A lot of people that played in the Dragon Cup saw that, had that experience too in Portland, because the Dragon meta was so different. So when it came to Portland, it was a lot of the same Patria decks, that mixed deck with lots of actions. And I'm just sitting here like, oh, is this your first time? Is that little meme or GIF there? So anyways, I think 100% the number one target for DBS needs to be not fun cards. And at the same time, also cards that maybe would help you get more level to make the game more fun. We saw all the destruction cards go down. Deconstruct went down. Rend and Soul Jar, and I think Sirocco Blast went down, because when those cards like Luminous Scarab hit the board, we don't have a lot of ways to answer it. So now it's less scary because I can run 2 deconstructs in my deck a lot better. And so now I can deal with the Scarab or the other unfun cards that come out. So again, I think that's the primary thing. Some people think it's popularity. Some people think it's meta. Some people think it's competition. Some people think it's power. It's like, no, the number one thing that I think needs to be considered when it comes to DBS is fun and feels bad factors.
All right. Grace, what did you want to add?
So there's something in Magic called the SALT score of a card, and you can guess based on what that sounds like what it is. And I definitely think that and for those of you who are not aware, it's how salty the card is going to make the person you're playing against.
No, by the way, Grace, I didn't know where you were going with that. I totally would not have got that based on that. That's a very, what are you, 85? What are you, a grandparent?
No, that shows that you're the grandpa here, Slappy.
Salty, so like they're being salty. Yeah, sorry, go ahead, Grace.
Everyone, petition, comment down below. Salty White, that's his new name.
The salt level of cards is definitely involved in DBS. We saw cards that people hate playing against go up, and we've seen that consistently across DBS changes.
Well, it's interesting. Texan mentioned those playing in Portland, and a great chance here to see if our fellow creator Capricorn, were you playing in Portland?
Hi guys.
What's up, Cap? Thanks for
Portland.
dressing up for the
Hello.
I'm actually kind of feeling under the weather. I was sleeping it off, and then I realized there was a stream today. I didn't know if we were starting the new schedule or not, and I was like, I'm not missing it if I can jump on. I'm gonna get on. So
Thanks for coming on set, Cap.
So I popped on. Portland's important to talk about. The meta in Portland was a train wreck. Everything is crazy right now, guys. Absolutely crazy. I don't know what you've heard or what's already been discussed. Has this been discussed at all?
Portland
I
has not
literally
been.
just brought it up.
We talked
Talking
about we talked about DBS changes, and that's been about it.
All right, so a lot of the normal meta decks that were rearing their ugly heads in Vegas and all the other SCG cons got big nerfs with the new DBS. We saw Scarab get nerfed, we saw Blazafel get nerfed, we saw all the Patria stuff get nerfed, we saw the Drakes and the Noctarum and Rocket and all this stuff get nerfed.
And when you say get nerfed, you mean the DBS went up.
The DBS went up.
Oh, come on,
so it's
Grandpa.
harder to use
Stay
those
with us.
things. And what happened was what tends to happen in a game like Magic after a ban, where the meta readjusts. And now that it's so hard to play those things, the deck that those things would normally be able to stop best is becoming the top deck. And what ended up coming out in Vegas, or rather in Portland, it is a deck using Chieftain Klee and Betrayer of Ironskin Clan, so that every single time you harvest, you're getting extra energy and you're getting extra actions by harvesting things like Indra Citadel and Twilight Marsh and all of the different lands that can somehow get you an extra action when you harvest them. You're Chieftain Kleeing, you're Vob Stalkering to copy the Chieftain Klee, and then you are Plant Terroring to copy the Vob Stalker and the Chieftain Klee. And basically what's happening is every time you harvest, you're getting like 4 actions and 2 energy. And you're using Commanding Croak. They run all 3 Commanding Croaks, so they just dig for another land and do it again. And if you're out of lands, you just use all these crazy actions you just generated to draw until you hit another land, play the land, get 4 more actions and 2 more energy. I'm not lying, guys. Sneaky Joe generated 80 energy in 1 round and only had to use half of it. He used 40 of it against me. The finals was Yo-Yo and Sneaky against each other. They were both using that same deck. They played out their entire decks. Sneaky Joe had 3 cards left in his deck.
Wow.
Just playing naturally, not any cheaty like shenanigans, just playing the cards because you had like unlimited actions. Like both players had like 30 actions every single round. It was absolutely absurd. And the only reason Yo-Yo ended up winning was because Sneaky Joe was so low on cards, he double cast out him. He got to look at the top of his deck and banish 2 cards, and he did that twice to the last 3 cards in his deck. And Sneaky was trying to win by attacking into Yo-Yo's utterly complex compound bow to force Yo-Yo to draw cards, trying to win that way, because the board was such a mess. Like, literally the entire decks were just on the board. And if you walked over as a new player, it was the first time in my life you couldn't walk over to a game and just look at it and kind of know what's going on. It was just cards everywhere, 17 different colors of symbiosis tokens. Like you didn't know what meant what. It was insane. The Portland meta was absolutely insane.
Grace, I know that you were you had something to add.
Yeah, I was. Cap can probably remind me of this because I don't remember what the Magic rule, what the Wonders rule is. I know what it is in Magic, because I've never seen anybody come close to doing this until Portland. It sounds like. Is it when you have no cards left in the deck, or if you go to draw when you have no cards in your deck, you lose? Because that's an important thing for new players to be aware of.
As soon as you have 0 cards, you automatically lose. It's not like in Magic. In Magic the Gathering, it's not until you have to draw a card and can't. That's when you lose. So you can have no cards. In Wonders, as soon as you hit no cards, it's over. You lose.
So that sounds like the big downside of this new deck is that you're setting yourself up at a high risk strategy to potentially get drawn out and lose.
It is. And another big downside is And this was not just bad for the deck, but kind of bad for the game and for the community and just for the tournament scene in general. When that deck was being played in Swiss, those are timed rounds. They weren't able to utilize all of that value because every single one of those decks was going to time and could only do what it could do. And they were still doing good enough to make it into the top 8. But I believe 3 or 4 of those decks made it into the top 8. Once they were in the top 8 and it was untimed matches, it was insane. Matches were like 2.5 hours. Like they were just, I'm not exaggerating. They were taking 30 actions every single round. They were taking an entire game's worth of actions like every single round. And it was, I tried my hardest to stop it. I had a really, really good deck. Me and Roaming Boss used it both, representing Team First Formed. And we did super well. We both made it into the top 8. We gave them a run for their money. We made them have to work for it, but it was like, it didn't matter what you did. They somehow found a way to get the engine back online. Like you kill it, they bring another one back. They Vob Stalker, they do this, they do that. It's just like, in one of the games, Yo-Yo had his entire board completely wiped by one of the wipe spells. I think it was the red one, the Corruption Warp. All he had left was one Sirius at the end of round 6 going into 7 against I think it was Broughton. And then literally he just rebuilt an entire board in round 7, played a whole game's worth of value in just round 7, and came back and won that game against Broughton. Like, the deck is insane, and I would be very surprised if we don't have an emergency DBS update coming soon, at the very least by the time the shattering happens. And I want to be clear too, it's really cool that a deck like that can exist in this game. It's nuts, but it needs to be nerfed to the point where it's not the backbone of the entire competitive scene. You know, it should be something that pops out every once in a while. Someone, you know, tries to make it work, even though there's high DBSs, like that kind of thing. For the DBSs to be as low as they are for that deck, and for all of the other strong decks to get hit with higher DBS, so they can't really fight against it and stop it effectively like they used to be able to. It's just kind of running roughshod over the entire tournament scene right now. And I'm working on some videos highlighting that. I have the finals match from Portland, both Sneaky and Yo-Yo using that deck. That'll be going up soon, and then I'm going to be doing a deck.
That'll be a 2.5 hour. That'll be a 2.5 hour playthrough.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm going to try to cut down, you know, dead air when I can, but there isn't a lot of dead air. They just keep playing. They just don't stop playing. They play like, you know, 3 games. It's 3 games in one game is basically what it is.
Yeah.
Crazy.
By the way,
and if you don't understand, if you don't play, if you're a collector or maybe you're just a Bowman player watching this, I mean, imagine in baseball, you get 3 outs and the inning is, your side of the inning is over. Just imagine if you could do something to generate more outs. So it's like, we got you at 2 outs and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to play this player and now I've got 3 more outs. And it's like, imagine playing baseball and your opponent has 40 outs before the inning is over. Like, that's what an action is. And it's wild. And Cap, I know this wasn't your intention, but that's not to downplay the quality of player Yo-Yo, Sneaky, Broton, all the Mythic Knights are. It's not just the deck. I mean, it's also the players that found the deck,
for sure.
that practiced the deck. I mean, me and Roaming Boss were playing the same meta deck for the upcoming mono, that same style of deck, and I was like, you know, can we build a deck that beats that deck? And with the deadline, I couldn't do it. But, you know, just even me and Boss playing the same deck against each other, I mean, he could outplay me using it because he knows the intricacies of the deck where I was still figuring it out. So
Absolutely.
I mean, it definitely is the player as well.
And to your point is that Joe Doug chiming in, he said, after seeing that deck, though, competitive players should be building an anti-meta deck. Even though some of the counters are high DBS, it definitely can be beaten. He said, this is what usually happens in most competitive games. You have to give time for players to build anti-meta decks that will naturally shift the meta. DBS changes aren't necessarily needed, not enough data after just one event. So kind of going with what Texan was talking about, trying to build.
And I agree with that. And that's something that I've been personally trying to figure out. I've been trying to figure out something that's totally off meta that could figure everything out. But I can't tell you how many times I've heard someone say, I finally figured this game out. I'm going to win everything. I finally got something that's totally off meta. No one's going to see it coming. And those people don't ever make top 8. Those people don't ever just they can't win, because it's not only the deck itself. Like I said, it's the player. So you can play Rock Skin Shredders, Rust Troopers. We just know how to deal with it, right? Like, and that's something that I came up with. Like, I was like, okay, so we obviously need Grumpin to keep action economy, which means I need ways to untap it. So I'll run Pub and other untap spells, and then I can run my own Betrayer. And it's like, either number one, they just Betrayer my Betrayer, so they have energy economy, or they Betrayer their own, or they have their own Betrayer plus mine, then they Vob Stalker. So every energy I'm gaining, they're gaining 2, so they're getting better answers than mine. Or they figure out they just remove Grumpin from the board. He's only 3 power. So again, Fungalith Colossus, 1 play, he's out of here. Goodbye. And just there's different ways to do that. And there are ways that I'm still trying to figure out how to do that against the anti-meta. You know, is there an Entangle deck where I can cast Entangle every turn? But again, those decks, those players have already not figured it out, but they are already expecting it. They can see it coming. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I play Sneaky in a casual match, just practice, and he's like, "Oh, you're playing this deck, okay? So I'll just let you do your thing." And then, you know, then I'm like, "All right, well, I'm passed out. I don't have any other things I want to do." And he's like, "All right, boom, 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 boom." And I'm like, "Well, there goes my plan out the door." And it's a combination of player skill, it's a combination of cards available, it's a combination of DBS available. But yeah, I don't want to brush off what Joe Doug said, but anyone out there that's like, "Oh, well, I'll just do this and I'll be fine." When you say that, I've never seen people say that and then make the top 8. I just haven't seen it.
I do want to say, like, Joe's not necessarily wrong. I agree with Joe to a certain extent. You know, there are definitely, I'm exploring right now ways to kind of try and beat this meta deck. And it's fun. It's fun to have that happen in a game where all of a sudden a deck comes up and it's super powerful and it's crazy. And you have to try to figure out a way to deal with it. And then someone really clever in the community figures out a way to deal with it. And the meta shifts again. I think with this deck in particular, the biggest sticking point that makes it a problem isn't just that it's so powerful. It's also that it's kind of convoluted and takes a lot of time. So it ends up making games go to time a lot, which you kind of don't want. It ends up being really confusing board states with tons of cards out that you have to keep track of. So out of all of the decks that could have like put their foot through the ground and been like, this is my time to shine, it's just probably the worst one to do that with, because it's so difficult to keep track of from a player perspective and to deal with. Like, any newer player tries to play this deck at a tournament, they're going to get so lost so quick. They're going to go to time and they're not going to know what the heck to do. Because you generate a ton of actions. Because of that, you have to play really, really fast so that you can use all of those actions, or else you lose, you know, what's making the deck one up everything else if you're not using all those actions you're generating. So it's a crazy time. It's exciting though. I'm glad this happened now before the shattering. I'm glad we get a moment like this in Wonder's history where there's this crazy deck that came out of nowhere and is really, really nuts, and we have an opportunity to try to beat it.
Again,
I'm just a little bit worried about the long term.
That was the Stone Seeker meta. I know they didn't finish in the top of everything, because I think it came down to the pilots of the decks themselves. But I'm telling you, I faced the same. I saw someone tap an Indris for 6 actions. I mean, come on, like it's been around. It's just, I think these players had a certain play style that is now. It was just easier to run a deck that fits the new DBS updates. It's almost like a new DBS meta. Like, hey, I'd rather run this deck, but it's 1,200 points now, so I'm going to run this other deck instead.
Well, it's Broden is making a couple comments in here. You can see I've been putting them up there. The one that struck me, though, is that it's interesting. He mentioned how, let's see, he said, I actually felt bad multiple games. Where he was talking about playing against his opponent. I will let you know that when Yo-Yo came away from Portland, is that he never said anything about feeling bad. He just shared the fact that he was victorious. So in text messages with me, he was happy to do that. So I will say for some, they didn't feel bad about winning, and Yo-Yo was one of them. But speaking of Portland, is that, of course, the next stop up, and Cap, are you going to be in Milwaukee?
Oh, yeah, you better believe it. I got to try to see if I can build a counter deck to that thing. Milwaukee's my chance.
So do you want to see what, let's see, want to see what the next, let's get this guy up here, is that the next promo card is that you're actually going to be playing for, Cap. This will be the final promo card for existence. So as a primarily collector more than player, knowing that this is the last promo card has extra special worth. So this is promo card 65. A shout out to the team. Thanks for sharing this with us. Rock Skin Shredder. This is what you can hope to find when you are in Milwaukee. Look at how beautiful that is. All right.
I see nothing. I see nothing. Where is it?
See it,
Come on,
Slappy.
Salty. Come on,
Wait, you guys
Salty.
can't-
Holding back.
You guys can't see it?
No, we just see
No.
us on the side.
You're teasing us.
Slappy's
It-
trolling
There
us.
it is.
It literally is on my
love that.
screen. I'll have to see what the issue is. On my screen, you guys were on the side of this beautiful piece. So,
Oh man.
Adorable.
all right, let's see. Can you
I
still
need it
see
in
it
my life.
if I put you up there? Well, you can't see the.
No, it's
the
it's
text.
good. I like it. For some reason, when I saw this card, and don't take this the wrong way, or don't take this as a slide. Like literally, when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that's a Pokemon." And then immediately I was like, silhouette it, and like, who's that Pokemon? It's Rock Shredder, Rock Skin Shredder. I like this card a lot. I think it's almost like the Moonfire Crystal Mouse of Sulfera. I'm here for it.
Interesting. We'll see. If
How
that catches on.
appropriate that it's a promo for Milwaukee when it gets value off of them harvesting, and the meta deck is the harvest deck right now.
Very appropriate.
Serendipitous. It's meant to be.
Absolutely. All right. And so, Texan, you are not going to Milwaukee, right?
Unfortunately, I cannot. I have a something on the calendar that's been on the calendar for months. Family event, big thing we do every year. So I just dates didn't work out.
I'll win this war for you.
And what deck are you going to be playing? Are you going to be playing the meta deck, or are you going to still be?
I'm working on
experimenting?
secret decks. I have 3 different potential counter decks to this
Okay.
thing.
Are we finally going to see the pink spore deck?
Don't be shy. Tell him you're running the mice. Adorable
The
vermin.
trick is you
Moonfire
need
Crystal
to be
Mouse.
able to beat this deck, but also still beat the normie decks that are going to show up too. You can't be like just all in on anti-meta, or else you won't make it to the top 8.
And that is such a fascinating thing about the competition scene is so many people are like, oh, this deck will beat so many other decks. And it's like, I understand that. Will it beat the top 8 decks? You can't build decks just to get into the top 8. You have to build decks to beat the top 8.
Yeah. And
so
don't get me
that
wrong,
really limits you.
some of the really good decks out there can stand toe-to-toe with this new deck in Swiss and have, 50-50 chance, like have equal chances of beating it in Swiss where it's timed, because they don't have that time to take full advantage of it. The problem is when it gets to top 8. You need to have a deck that can handle that deck in top 8 where it's untimed and they just literally get to do everything ever. So it's tricky, but it's going to be fun trying to solve that puzzle.
I'm getting
right.
close. I'm getting close.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm getting close. We're still stress testing it.
No, that's why it's too bad you're not going to be in Milwaukee, so you
I
can
know.
tell us about the success or failure that you have. But
I know.
speaking about upcoming SCG cons, is that Joe Doug sharing that there will be no exclusive promos at Richmond, which is not surprising. We won't make promo chasers choose between Shattering and Richmond. Yes, there will be a promo again at the Shattering. And of course, the Shattering, I wasn't going to go there right away, but we can talk about that now, is that the Shattering, of course, is where they launch their set. It's only been done once because there's only one set in Wonders of the First, the Existence set. And it's not surprising. I've advised people, even on the Bo Battle side, I'm like, I wouldn't go to the Richmond, is that the team is very focused on the Wonders community, a very important community to them. So I would expect them to have everybody there. In fact, I could see them canceling even the events at Richmond. They don't want any kind of distraction with what the Shattering is. But speaking to the Shattering, it's going to be March 6th through 8th. A big change they made this year is that the main event last year, where you got to rip your product from the set, that was on Saturday, and it was Saturday night. They're moving that up to Friday night. It's no wonder that's a smart move, because what they were doing last year is they're trying to make it a big reveal. Well, the problem is everybody got into town as they, after work on Friday. So you're there Friday night or at least a lot of Saturday. And if you don't have the new set, you're kind of just, they were giving out some cards or some packs that you could rip and play with. But it was kind of this weird thing. And then like, once you get your cards, it's 9 o'clock at night on Saturday. And then a lot of people leave Sunday. So they're moving that up so that you can have a fun weekend of playing, with your own cards. So you get to rip your cards Friday. So this is very important. I know a number of people actually booked for Saturday, just thinking, okay, I'm going to show up on Saturday. I'll be there in time. Friday's kind of the main event. Now, if you show up Saturday, there's a ton of play left, so you can still do that. But the camaraderie, getting to know the people you've met in the community in person, that's what's going to happen on Friday night. So, and obviously, Carolina, you've done a great video on what to do about in Carolina, because that's where you're from, Columbia. Texan, you will be there this year, right?
Yep, I'll be there.
Okay. So what do Capricorn, you did a great recap of the video last year. If you can send it to me, I will make sure to add it to the notes here so people can easily access it. Grace, if you could send me your video link too. So I'll put that in the show notes as well. But Cap, what's the number one thing that people need to know about this shattering that's different? Is there anything different from last year other than the Saturday to Friday that I'm forgetting?
Well, one of the big things for players that might not be obvious right away is this shattering, we're going into it not knowing the cards. We're not knowing there's going to be a constructed tournament on Sunday, and we get to rip on Friday. And I don't know exactly what their plans are concerning spoilers and spoiler seasons, so some of this is, hypothesizing on my part. But I would say at the most, we know half the set going into the shattering, and half the set is a secret. So you have less than 48 hours. And that's part of the reason they moved it to Friday, to ripping everything on Friday, so that you had an extra day to open your cards and see what you have and build your decks. You're going to have less than 48 hours to build your constructed deck for Sunday, not even going into it with a strategy or knowing what to build your deck around or what even exists. And we don't even know if we're going to get it on Tabletop Simulator. Probably not. With the first shattering, you had Tabletop Simulator for that first set for months and months and months. So everybody already went to the shattering. They know what they needed to build. They knew what they needed to trade for if they didn't open it. Now it's going to be like the Wild West. Everybody's going to be cracking on Friday and losing their minds, running around all over the place, trading. It's going to be super fun. It's a wild environment that I can't wait to be a part of. But definitely kind of keep that in mind going into it, is that everyone's on that same level. Everyone's not going to know exactly what they're even going to be playing Sunday until they start opening on Friday. And I think that'll be part of the fun of it.
So you're saying
I am so ready. I love that environment. That's still my favorite memory from Vegas was seeing all the Dragon Cup players running around past midnight the day before the tournament trying to find cards. I'm like, yes, this is a trading card game again. And so the fact that it's like literally going to be the cards you're going to play on Sunday are literally the cards that are there on site. Who has what card? And I don't know. Are we even going to have a card list? Like, are we going to know if I open up a case, and I'm going to go through and sort my cards, and I'm like, okay, well, I have 350 cards out of 410. What are the 50 cards I'm missing? Will we even know that? I don't know.
I mean,
I wish we knew.
Presumably we'll have to, because there will have to be a DBS. There's a DBS limit for the constructed competition.
They said no. They said it's immortal. No limit.
It's immortal? Never mind. Mm-hmm. There goes my theory on why we'd have to know what all the cards are.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think
did they actually confirm it was immortal?
That's what the announcement says.
Fair. I didn't remember that.
I assumed because they don't want to have DBS be the limiting factor. They just want people to play with the cards they get. Yep. Sunday, March 8th, constructed unlimited DBS competitive event at 10 a.m. They did not say if it was going to be Call of the Stones only.
I wonder if that means that cardio won't be updated.
That's kind of what I'm wondering, because the reason to do unlimited is so that you don't have to publish a DBS list.
Yeah, Joe's here, right? I wonder if Joe can tell us.
I think the reason you do unlimited is so you can actually have fun with the cards you have, not
True.
Well, this card's 90, and now I got to figure out with all these new cards, and it's like, all right, just play with the cards you get. You get 3 of these secondaries, play them all. That's fine.
I'm super curious now if the entire card database will be on cardio that Friday when we're ripping or not. If it's immortal, it could be no. I mean, the DBS might not be updated.
It's not immortal.
Monday.
It's unlimited. Because remember, immortal is 1250. They actually said unlimited.
Which means that it's any and all DBSs versus 1250 would be technically anything 1250 plus.
It's pre-release and
Yeah,
release
unlimited
date
is
later.
anything.
And actually, that's one of the
Oh,
things
I
I
didn't
was.
realize it was the pre-release. They considered it. I thought it was the release.
No, this is really important to know. So when we're talking about the shattering, of course, things have been quiet since Christmas. You have some events going on at SCG Con. One of the points I've made about locations like Portland, not everybody's like Cap can fly all the way across the country. Hard part with Portland is actually out west, you don't have the density of population the way we do on the east. So when it's in Atlanta, and there's just so many people in New England consider that not that bad of a drive to drive the 15 hours there, but you literally have people coming from all over the eastern seaboard that can hit those events. When you're out in Portland, between the ocean and Canada, you really are limiting right there. And then you head down to Northern California and like literally you're just hitting woods as you drive down there. So some of these events, I was curious to hear how Portland was going to go. I expected attendance to be down just because it's not drivable. And like we have a very dedicated community who are willing to drive, that just not to places like Portland. So for a lot of folks in the community, they're seeing this and like, it seems like the quiet. It definitely is the quiet before the storm. One of the things to understand about the Wonders team, nobody does marketing better than them. This is actually what Jeff French is. He's a marketing person before he did Wonders of the First. So as we know, Call of the Stones is going to be different than any other game that's ever been. There's celebrity autos. They're doing different things with it. So they're trying to bring attention to the game. So the one thing that Frenchie will not do is he's not going to spend money promoting this game when there's no product to buy. You don't drive people to your product when you can't sell them anything. So the way this release is going to happen is that and that's why it's so important to go to the shattering. You get your product before Target does. You get your product before your LGS does. So step one is the shattering. You get your product there. Step two is actually Target and LGS. They want to go ahead and and we'll get in. Actually, this is a good time to talk about their LGS Cap. That's one of the issues I wanted to talk to today. They did release an announcement in terms of what their, it talked about their strategy with LGS. And they specifically said, actually, to bring it up, because I want to make sure I get this right. But basically, they said, all right, request for existing community as we are handling our direct LGS outreach ahead of the distro sale, which we are intentionally pushing to time with release versus a long pre-sale runway. So again, they're not focusing on these LGSs, or we're going to say they're not used to saying, yeah, this little known startup game, like, sure, I'll pre-order it months out. I'm excited about that. That's just not going to win for them. If you're an LGS or you're a community member that has talked to an LGS that has expressed interest in stocking, hosting, play, please message Jason at imaginationminingco.com. Please structure yourself, blah, blah. And it just said, this is what's important though in the end. Please note, if you have talked to a store and they weren't interested, we aren't in a convince mode right now. We are in a conviction mode. If we do our job, their interest will come. In the meantime, we will rely on Target and other channels to get boxes to new players. Candidly, we feel that players buying boxes at Target and taking them to their LGS to play with friends will serve as a bit of awareness forcing mechanism for owners, staff at LGSs. So again, it was important to talk about this because I think we lose sight of this for people who are used to Magic and other things. Like, first of all, let's be honest, is that LGSs are essentially Magic franchises. They might stock other games, but they are Magic franchises. And I think what Frenchie is doing, what Wonders of the First is doing for Bow Battle is they're copying the Magic model to try to do for Bow Battle and sports card stores. He wants to make them essentially franchises of the Bow Battle and have their play events there. So for Wonders of the First, the problem is Magic has locked up the LGSs, and they are, I was shocked when I've told this story a million times. I was at Star City Games, their only retail location in Virginia. And when I went in there, I couldn't get Bow Battle Arena, and I didn't see Wonders of the First. They didn't have it stocked on the shelf. And the woman at the counter was just like, I can send somebody out back to get it. And of course, their warehouse is gigantic because they do massive online sales. But they had a Magic game night going on when I was there. And it was all Magic. So the concept for the team is it's kind of weird. It's top down and bottom up. They want the people to go into the LGS and create the demand there and force the LGS to say, kind of like the sports card stores with Bo. They hadn't heard of it, but people kept coming in and asking about it. And they want the same thing to happen with Wonders of the First. But how do you make the average person like go into your LGS? Well, you do it through stocking it at Target. You do it through celebrity promos. You get the excitement going. So more people play it, then they will take it in. So I just curious your thoughts, guys. Like, obviously you guys are traditional game players. This is very unorthodox. So your general thoughts about it, since we're talking about pre-release versus release. Target and the LGS, that's the release to come after the Shattering.
Well, I think everything they said is kind of spot on. You can't twist someone's arm and force them to stock your product, especially if there isn't demand for the product. You know, it's a which came first, the chicken or the egg. And I think the way they're going about it right now is probably the best way you can do it. You do have to have the players essentially march to their LGS with torches and pitchforks and demand the monster be let out of its cage. You know, like that's kind of how you have to do it. That's your only way really to do it. I have a couple LGSs up here that are excited about it only because I've been constantly berating them week after week after week with information and being like, you have to do this. It's going to be amazing. And, you know, they're on board, but it's not like that everywhere. And you definitely have to have this sort of an approach, I think, is really the only way to do it. I have been thinking for quite a while. I think the key might be to try and find a way to incentivize players to get other players involved. And I almost wonder, a long time ago, Magic the Gathering did this thing called player rewards, where if you signed up for so many events, they would send you a promo card. And it would be some crazy promo card you could only get by doing that. And it was encouraging people to go out to events. I almost wonder if Wonders could do something similar, but instead of just for going out to events, it's for like signing up other players and having them compete in at least one event in order to qualify as a sign up. If you had some kind of a promo incentive program where if you signed up 5 players, you got this common promo that you can only get by doing this. And if you sign up 10 players, you get this uncommon promo, like all the way up to Mythic. And all those players have to compete in one event. The only places they'll be able to compete other than SCG cons would be their LGSs. It would force all those players to flock to their LGSs, demand events. It would be a way to force, kind of like to incentivize the players to rally each other up and go do the thing, because they'd get access to these crazy promo cards that you couldn't get any other way. I don't know. I didn't mean to like go down a rabbit hole with that, but that's been something that's been in the back of my head for a while. If you really want to mobilize the troops and get this to happen, I think getting the players to spearhead it in a way like that, where they're incentivized and they're like, I'm getting that Mythic promo. I'm signing up 50 people in my city and I'm making my LGS do these events so that I can get that promo. Like that, something like that could be really smart, but I didn't mean to go down a rabbit hole. Grace, what were you thinking?
Say for the longest time that Wonders needs an ambassador program, whether that, I'm not saying in the same sense that Magic does it where it's only content creators. That's just the term that comes to mind when I think about this sort of thing, where you're an ambassador. If you're going out and you're going to your LGS and you're running events, like I know Cap, you do sealed events at your LGS. Like if there's incentive and the ability to, hey, we can send you a 2-player starter kit or two 2-player starter kits to help you run events at your local game store. And once you run an event, you get this certain recognition if you're just encouraging people to play versus an official event versus an unofficial event. But I think for this to really dig in and work, people need incentive, not because we don't love the game, but because humans are humans and we chase the dopamine, and people need incentive to do things. Like that's human nature.
Well, part of it too is it's not even just, a lot of players are just satisfied with, I know how to play the game, I'll play the game with the people that I know. So it's not necessarily we need to incentivize the players to do something for themselves. It's more we need to incentivize the players to do something for all the other players around them that is enough to push that LGS into doing stuff, you know? So I think a way to kind of rally the troops in that fashion could be helpful.
Texan, I had a couple thoughts, but did you have anything to add?
No, I like all of these ideas. You know, I do wish there was. I mean, we could all sit here and pontificate up about different ways that we could incentivize LGSs, but yeah, at the end of the day, the natural feast or famine cycles that LGSs have to face, similar to comic shops, like they have to look at the retail space and know, if I'm going to put something on the shelf here, I need it to sell. I need to know what it's going to cost me. Because I mean, if you're not business minded, or if you never run a business, it's not your fault. But I mean, they literally have to say, well, I could put this, I could pay $15 and put this $30 box here. But if that doesn't sell, that's eating up money that could be there, that could be sold, that could be. I mean, these aren't garage, these aren't storehouses. Like, they have to move product. And so I understand what they're saying, and you know, you could say, well, there's a million players and there's all these things and people will buy it, and it just stock it. And just like I get where the LGSs are coming from. And I get the frustration that, you know, we want more people to see the game. We think that if they see it, they'll play it. If they'll play it, they like it. But at the same time, I can't tell you how many games that I see at my LGS, and I'm like, that looks cool, but I'm not going to bother playing it because I don't know anyone that plays it. I don't see them playing it. I you know, whatever it is, it's got to be a grassroots effort. It's like I tell people, it's like I tell y'all, you play on your kitchen table, play at your dining table. I do all that, but if you can, go play at your LGS. Get them familiar with it. There's that old adage: it takes 7 points of contact for someone to make a decision. Well, your LGS owner has heard about it one time from you, and if that's it, you know, unless you're going to be the sole buyer, I doubt they'll do anything about it. So, you know, bring friends, you know, get it out there, get them interested in it, share cards, share bulk. You know, I know we all want to make money back on our investment, but I know a lot of us are like interested at just getting some cards out there for people to play. Yeah, anyways, I don't think there's a great answer. There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer. It's kind of like, at this point, I'm just like, this is probably the most I'll ever talk about it. It's like, I'm just waiting till COTS comes out. Cause I think once Call of the Stones comes out, the walls are, the dam is broken. Everything's going to come flooding out. Cause like Frenchie said, we don't want to invite people to a restaurant they can't eat at for 6 months. And so, you know, it's kind of a weird situation.
But you don't have anything to add, Texan? I
No.
believe that's how you opened your comments, was saying you had nothing to add.
Nope.
Okay.
Imagine being married to me.
I will say that I'm glad you hit on that, talking about Call of the Stones. A couple of things going on is that, one is that for folks who are involved with Wonders of the First, it's hard not to talk about both Battle Arena because they are both projects of Jeff French, and actually the success helps each other. One of the reasons why Wonders of the First is in Target is because of Bo Battle Arena. Bo Battle Arena is sold out in Targets. You cannot find it in there. And they are very happy with Bo Battle Arena. They want that product. And so absolutely is that Jeff French is making sure you will stock Wonders if you're going to stock Bo Battle Arena. So first of all, the fact that this startup TCG with one set is in Target says a lot right there. You know, Brian Tinsman, when I was talking to him in Vegas, I was talking about how he feels about the progress of Wonders. And from all his years of experience, he said, I think it's amazing after 1 year, we are at year 5 of where a game is usually. So I listening to the panel, I think one of the things, like just the reality check for the community, is that listening to you, Cap, I'm kind of reminded of Card Society, Mr. Hop Eric, and Bo Battle Arena. He constantly refers to Bo Battle Arena when he's talking about Topps and Panini and these other companies. He's talking about companies that are worth billions of dollars that produce millions of cards, and he constantly compares it to Bo Battle Arena, which is this big. And on the one hand, you know, it's like, you're like, dude, like, hey, take it easy. Like, they're this, but it's also a huge compliment, because in his mind, it is a quality product that is not the same as a company that's been putting out product for years. And so I love the Cap, like just that you play this game, you want everybody to play it. You want to be able to travel and go into when you're out in Portland, you want to stop on, you know, get in Thursday night, go to a Wonders game night, get to know the community there, meet some new people, and practice some things last minute before you go into Portland SCG. That's what you really want. And that's awesome that you're doing that. I think about the show that we all did when we talked about the community, and we're like, well, how big do you think the Wonders community? And we were off by by more than 10x, is that based on what they're selling across the country. The problem is it's not the tipping point where you can go into that LGS in Portland. So I will say, like, I don't think any of the ideas you were saying bad. I love those ideas. And I love that, you know, get a mythic if you do 50 and do all that stuff. But the reality is the tipping point, that's not going to make the difference. Like, it's way beyond what we could do with that program. That's not going to grow the program. But I think it's a good program to reward community members, not to grow, but to reward. But I think what Texan, he's right. Frenchie is, he people don't understand when it comes to marketing. Most of his projects, you ask people, how did you find it here? And like, I saw a Facebook ad. I mean, remember Atlas, who started the Wonders Codex, is like, I saw an ad. You know, my kids made me play Magic when I was 10. I didn't really like it. And then I saw this ad. I'm like, why not? And it's not only was the ad placed for him, the ad spoke to him. And that is what Frenchie can do. So when Call of the, you haven't seen anything yet. When Call of the Stones comes out, and then the other thing is we're talking about what is the problem we've had in existence. We don't have enough product. It's the reason why Radish Price Guide can't track it is because there's no sales on eBay. So what are we going to see? Like, guys, they couldn't overprint for that first set because they had no idea the demand. They know the demand now. So we fully expect there to be a much greater print run. So that actually people want to play can do it. And that's where they're not going to, that's a great Texan. Like, you know, you're not going to get people excited about the restaurant if they can't get a reservation for 6 months. All right. I want to cover the last thing, but any final comments, since I don't want to have the last word. Anybody else want to say any last thing about spreading the gospel of Wonders?
No, I think we've beat the horse pretty close to finality.
I think the real takeaway, the one takeaway is, regardless of what programs might or might not exist, at the end of the day, the way to get it into an LGS is to make the customers that frequent that LGS demand it from the LGS. So whatever tactics they use, you know, need to revolve around, like, how do we make the people that go there want this bad enough to demand it from the LGS? And there's a lot of different ways they could do that. They're smarter than we are, so they'll figure it out. But it seems like they're on the right track with what they posted.
All right. Well, the final thing we're going to talk about is that we're going to talk about the tournament rule change. All right. So they had an announcement, and the Wonders team put out an official announcement a couple of weeks ago. They said, we have published an update to the tournament rules and penalty guide to clarify how match outcomes are determined. Intentional draws are now only permitted before the start of the first game of a match. Once play begins, match results must be determined through normal gameplay. All draws are now recorded as a double loss. We have also consolidated rules covering bribery, collusion, false result reporting, and improper determination of a winner under a single match and tournament manipulation policy to better protect tournament integrity. A reminder to all attendees that spectators are not permitted to interfere with ongoing matches in any way. If you observe a gameplay or rules infraction, please bring it to the attention of a judge rather than engaging with the players. These updates are now in effect for all sanctioned events. Please review the updated blah, blah, blah. All right. So, Cap, you've obviously been at these tournaments. Give us the gossip. Why is this happening? It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not like they said the team was like, oh.
It's happening because the player base demanded it, and so shall it be done. See, what's interesting about this game is this game doesn't have to have draws. It doesn't have to. Most games just naturally arrive at situations where there can be draws. You go to time, and the game has to end in a draw, like Magic the Gathering, plenty of other games. So the tournament rules needed to be set up in a way for those games where draws were handled in a way that, you know, wasn't off-putting to players when those situations came up. Wonders, you don't have to have a draw. There is a system in place there. There will always be a winner. Even if the game goes to time, not necessarily with the old going to time rules where they took the first stone off the table as a tiebreaker and all of that. But if you go back to, you know, where the game started, you have that first realm tiebreaker. Even if the game went to time and ended early, you could always determine a winner. It's always possible to determine a winner. And I think when Wonders first started doing competitive events, they were stuck in that same mind frame of like, we got to do what the other games are doing. We have to have a draw system in place that mimics what the other games are doing, because that's what players expect. But across multiple events, I think we all kind of realized, like, there doesn't ever have to be draws ever. And if there never has to be draws ever, then we can have a system where we do away with intentional draws, and then we get rid of all of the feel bads that revolve around, people intentionally drawing after they get so many wins and just automatically going to top 8. The vibes in Portland were amazing. This rules change was you were in round 5 and every single person was still fighting tooth and nail to make sure they were in top 8. There was no like, I'm safe. Like, everybody was battling. The people that actually made it into the top 8 were the people that actually played 5 games better than anybody else at the event and got the most wins. It was so refreshing. There wasn't any more of this weird gray area of like, well, maybe 9th place was actually better than 7th place, but he got his wins early, so he could just draw into top 8. There was none of that. There was like no questions. Everyone that was in top 8 deserved to be there. They all played their best games. They all got the best win rates. And it was amazing. It was perfect, and I love it. I could gush forever.
Well, thank you for that recap. Grace, you don't have your finger on your nose, so I assume that you don't have anything to add to that, Grace, right?
No, Texan is very passionate about this topic, and both of them have experience playing, so I was going to let them talk first.
Sorry, I had to send a message. Yeah, I love it. I love the idea that we're playing, to the end. It's the same thing. I mean, when I was looking at the Portland top 8, and all of them were like 4-1. I think there was 1 or 2 3-2s. Like, it made sense that these guys like were the top of the top for that weekend for that reason. Again, don't hate the player, hate the game. When we were in Atlanta, I won my first 3 games and I tied the last 2. I did not play the last 2 games because I didn't have to. And just like we were talking about DBS, certain cards are feel bad, certain cards are no fun. It's no fun for me to say like, oh, well, this match I don't have to do anything because I can just draw and get a point over anyone else that lost this one, and then draw again and get a point over everyone else that lost this one. Like, it's not okay. Like, that's like I said, I'm too American for these Swiss rules. So the fact that now if you draw, it counts the same as losing, like, that actually means something. There's really no reason to draw unless you have like an emergency that you have to take care of or something like that. So I am very much in favor of this, and yeah, it just makes sense for me to see like things playing. And like Cap said, to see the energy of the room shift, I think that's fantastic. As far as the bribery and other rules, like, I think that was just clarity. I think just to address some things that happened, as well as maybe try to catch some things that might happen in the future, because, people, want to try to get whatever edge they can. And so just being proactive and making super clear what is a not inhonorable, what's the word I'm looking for? Invalid concession, or, what's causing pressure outside of the game, I think makes a lot of sense. So,
well, because let's be honest,
changes.
When you're talking about a tournament and I have a chance to go into the top 8 and you're 1 and 2, and it doesn't matter what your next game is, but you have a chance there's a slight chance you could beat me. So if I say, listen, I'm guaranteed, the prize pool is I'm guaranteed 4,000, I'll give you 500. Which is you're probably not going to win, but I offer you $500. It's interesting the way I think sometimes the familiarity in the community is you don't see it as bribery. It's more just, Cap, listen, I something, I can make it. You suck and I'm really good. I love this example. You suck and I'm really good. But there's a chance you could beat me, Cap. But like, listen, dude, you can walk away with $500. Why wouldn't you do that? But I think for it we were just talking about growing it as a game and being widely adopted. And so what you don't want is new people walking in and seeing that to happen. I'm just curious with Magic, if that happens in Magic, if that were to happen, somebody said, hey, something, you're probably not going to move on. I'll give you 500 because I'll make it to the next round. Is there a punishment for that? Is it banishment from all SCG cons, or is it just a slap on the wrist?
I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's not allowed. I think that's covered under the very similar collusion rules that Wonders now has. And it's really important for rules like that to go hand in hand with this change, because the biggest worry with a change like this is if you know you're out and no matter what you do, you're not going to make it to top 8. If forcing someone else to draw makes them get a loss, you could be trying to play to make players get losses so that the players you want to go to the top 8 will have a better chance. And it would be easier by only having to draw to do that. And so you have to be way more strict with all of that stuff, with collusion rules and everything. And we have a lot of players in our player base that are kind of just getting caught up to speed with the way things have been done with other card games. Like ever since Orlando, people have been drawing to get into the top 8 in our events, because that's what the Magic players started doing in Orlando. And we were just like, oh, that's what you do. And I don't think most people knew that you're technically not allowed to discuss that and like decide like, oh, is it better for us to draw? Should we draw? Let's draw into the top 8. Technically, that's against the rules. And that's part of what this stricter emphasis on, handling collusion and all of that stuff is about. There have been players in our community, even me, that have been like, sit down at the table. We've got 3 wins. Should we draw or not? Let's discuss why we shouldn't draw. And that's actually not allowed. That's like illegal.
Well, and let's be honest, sometimes it too is you're getting ready for, you're trying to understand, you've seen some of the play sitting next to them of the people you're going to face. And so part of it is just getting your head right for the next round. So sometimes that's why you want to draw. You just want the extra time to prepare.
But a lot of players don't even know that that's a problem, because they came in, they saw all the Magic players doing it in Orlando and continue to do it at every SCG. They thought, oh, this is what you're supposed to do, so we're going to start doing it so we're on an even playing field with all of them. What they don't know is you're allowed to just know instinctively that, oh, if I draw, it's good, and offer a draw and accept the draw. You're not allowed to actually talk about if it's tactically benefit right before the game starts, and then use that information to decide.
My understanding was in the previous rules, it was only like during the game. That's when, once the game starts, like you're in the game, you're playing the game, whatever the game is, you can't like sit there and be like, okay, well, who won and who won? Okay, maybe we should just draw this out or whatever. Now, I think it's what
You
you're
can't
talking
talk
the
about
update is like
Right.
now you're just you can sit down and play.
I almost got an infraction. I think that's what they call it, because I had sat down with one of my teammates and we had both had 3 wins, and we were trying to, I think this was in Atlanta. This was before the rules changes. And we were trying to decide whether we should draw with each other or whether we, one of us should get the win, like what's better for the team, not knowing that you're not allowed to do that. That's not okay.
Yeah. Well, y'all were in the middle of a game.
But we hadn't started yet. The thing is, everyone around us had started, and we didn't start our match because we were thinking like, well, we need to decide if we're going to play or not. And so the judge came over and was like, what are you doing? Play your game. And it wasn't until after that event that I realized like that's a no-no. And I think there's a lot of other players out there that have been in similar situations that saw what the Magic players were doing ever since Orlando, thought like, oh, this is just what you're supposed to do, so I should probably try to get good at knowing when not to do this, and then making some of those, mistakes like I have. And so I think putting the rules out there and being strict about it and making sure to put your foot down with the post that they made all the sense, and it goes hand in hand with changing the rules for draws.
Grace, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gonna. To be clear, I think all the changes that I've seen are good changes, necessary changes. It's just gonna force teams to have their stuff together ahead of time, which is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just gonna make stuff like that on what are you gonna do as a team. You can't decide in the moment. You're gonna have to decide that ahead of time, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's gonna make it harder for certain people, but there's also things that just your average Joe Schmo can do to like protect yourself. I say, like, anytime I'm playing in any sort of competition, if I'm the one submitting the score, I show the person my phone before I hit submit. There's a lot of the little like sportsman-like things that you can do that are easy and simple, and they don't require much. Just does this look right to you before I hit submit? That can add a lot of protection against that, like knowingly submitting invalid scores. If you say you showed it to the other person, they can agree with that, then it's proof that you didn't knowingly do something wrong.
Yes.
And so just being sportsmanlike will help there. But also I think it's going to make things a little bit harder for the teams. That was 2 points in one.
Yeah, and to wrap it all up, I think the fact that draws don't matter anymore. The draws are a loss. I mean, even if you had all those other things, it still doesn't. It doesn't make sense to draw. The only thing that makes sense is if you're like 4-0 and somehow everyone else is 1-2, and they have literally no chance of catching up to you.
Right.
Then does it make sense to draw and go get some coffee or something? Like it really does not make any sense to draw anymore with those changes.
Well,
and I like that.
That's the beauty of the system the way it is now too. It's all of those difficult decisions are off the table. You don't have to figure out, like, I don't have to worry, like, am I making the best decision for my team? Like my team's looking to me to do the right thing for the team. Like, am I making or am I making the best decision for me? Now it's like that's all off the table because draws are just both. You never draw. You come up against a teammate, you shake their hand, and you're like, may the best man win. And
Play to win.
you know, if I beat you, I hope you go on to do well and climb back up out of it. You know.
Yep.
Capricorn, you ruined, like, there was a good segue there's going to be there when Texan said to wrap it all up, and I was going to say yes. And to wrap it up, Texan, tell us what we've got ahead for the week for content from you to wrap up the show. But it's
we want to keep this a 30-minute show, y'all.
keep it to 90 minutes. All right.
I'm sorry, I haven't been on the show in a little while. I missed you guys. I don't want to.
None of us have been on the show in a while. This is our first show of the year, isn't it?
It is the first show of the year. All right, to American Texan, though, let's keep this under 90. So what do you got coming up for the week? What are we going to find from American Texan Plays?
Yeah, so content will hopefully be picking up again. We've got It's a Wonderful Life coming out tomorrow. I'll be talking a little bit more about Portland, opening up some mail that came in. I'm excited to share all that. And then we're going to talk about maybe some deck building, maybe some ways to protect your cards. You never know with my channel. It's really kind of whatever I feel like discussing. That's the beauty of having a small channel, is I'm not a slave to any kind of schedule. I'll try to just get what I think is relevant, what I think is helpful, and what I think is going to be entertaining as well.
And
so go find me, American Texan Plays, on YouTube.
Have you organized the desk behind you?
It's gotten worse, man. What are you talking about? I don't know if I can just see if you can see it. Stacks on stacks on stacks.
Yeah, that is
stacked
not
up. I guess that's something.
That is not pretty. That's American Texan Plays. So thank you, American Texan. All right, Grace, Wonders Workshop. What do you got coming up, Grace?
I will be talking about this week the number one change I would like to see on the Wonders of the First website. You will have to watch the video to find out that.
I'm just like, tell us now, but I know.
No, Slap, you have to watch the video. And then I think I haven't figured out what the other video I'm going to do is, but I think I'm going to talk about the recent discussion in the Discord about Kingdom, because I think that's a really fun conversation to deep dive into and see what people are thinking about. And if you haven't heard or read that discussion, you should go read it, or you should watch my video when I make it, because now that I've said it, I have to do it.
And Grace, what's the video that you talked about? I'm a little bit behind, so I haven't seen it yet, but the DBS. So one of the videos you just dropped in the last week was valuation of DBS?
Yeah, I dropped it on Friday. I don't remember what the video title is, but I remember that the thumbnail says DBS equals value ?
I can't, yes. I definitely want to check that out. And again, send me the link. I'll make sure to put it in the description. But your YouTube link is in the description. So for folks watching this, you can easily find Grace at Wonders Workshop. Anything else, Grace? All right. Well, and Cap, we're glad you might be quarantined with your sickness, but we're glad that you could join us. What about you, Cap? What do you got coming? It's like a lot of editing.
I got a lot of stuff coming because I've got finals matches from both Atlanta and Portland, with Portland in particular being an important one because you guys are going to get to see that new deck in action. I might do another deeper dive video into that deck to explain it and deck tech it out as well. So maybe the other important thing though is right now is an important time to be adaptable. We don't know if they're going to drop spoilers on us they could drop stuff at any moment. They could drop information about this new set at any moment. So if any of that information comes to light, I'm going to divert my attention and make sure to do videos covering that stuff ASAP. But other than that, it's really just those finals videos detailing the new meta. By the way, shout out to both Yo-Yo and Broten, because Broten got his first ever sealed first place championship in Portland over Sneaky, and Yo-Yo got his first constructed championship over Sneaky as well. And both those players are great, and they deserve their time in the sun. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, all of that content is on the way. I'm excited.
All right. Well, listen, I appreciate Capricorn you making, and of course Ben with Be Hero Gaming, he couldn't join us today. He's off building his anti-meta deck, and he'll report back as soon as he's able to do that. So, or you might see him in Milwaukee. But anyway,
OCMs too.
Make sure that you check out Grace at Wonders Workshop, American Texan at American Texan Plays, and Capricorn at Quarantine Capricorn. This is Slappy White for Radish Digital. Take care, everybody.
From the clash of wonder stories burst